Hey, what's up, y'all? This is the point where I'm supposed to tell you this video will contain spoilers. So if you care about that, throw this in your watch later playlist and come back after you watch the show. If not, well, I don't know. You've been warned. So Netflix released this limited series with Kevin Hart called True Story. And this is a 7-part series summarized as a world-famous comedian desperately searches for a way out after a night in Philadelphia with his brother threatens to sabotage more than just his success. Now, the summary is meant to be vague, so you're encouraged to watch the show, but for you to understand what this show is about, we gotta look at this one scene from episode 1. The summary for this episode is, high off success, the kid launches a comedy tour in his hometown, Philadelphia, but a reunion with his brother after an after party leads to a more sobering reality. The summary I just gave you provides you with most of the context you need, and here's the rest. This is a party, this is the party they're talking about. Prior to this, Kid and his brother Carlton were at a strip club, and Kid was peer pressured not only to get drunk, but to hit on and bring home a lady. And this is where I first hit pause. Now, they never state the age of our protagonist here, but it's safe to assume he's in his mid-20s, early 30s, or whatever age Kevin Hart is in real life. I know this is a movie, but at that age, if you're still, at that age, you're still falling to peer pressure at this capacity, you seriously need to reflect and grow some confidence. Peer pressure is strong, right? It'll make us do some dumb things, but it should never make you break your own morals, right? Now, add in the context that he's a very wealthy man and extremely famous. Besides that, I just stated, besides what I just stated about having some nuts, there's also a lot at risk here. Aside from the lesson I just gave you, let's play the scene. Okay, first pause. Why didn't you lock your door? I always lock my bedroom door, especially if I don't want to be interrupted, and I'm pretty sure most people will lock their door if they don't want to be interrupted.
What's the fucking problem? Situation. What's the situation? She dead. She dead, man.
Second pause. He says she's dead, but there's absolutely zero evidence of death. Now, I'm not an expert on drug overdose, but first off, he didn't check her pulse. He just asked if she did. Second off, he pointed out she overdosed off oxy, and I quote,
"The big ones."
But those are in a prescription bottle, and we can't tell how many are missing, but he should at least be curious on how the hell she overdosed off 1 or 2 oxys.
Ambulance, man. I'm calling an ambulance. Let me call a fucking ambulance. You just said she.
And pause number 3. If the first 2 are me overanalyzing and me being a just advanced thinker for thinking, how the hell do you overdose off of 1 or 2 oxys that were probably prescribed to you? Probably not. I know they get them in prescription bottles sometimes and they're not theirs, but these are prescribed to people, right? They're not meant to kill people. So if that's just me overanalyzing, this one, every single one of you should be suspicious about. Carlton sprints across the room to stop Kid from calling the police. In this situation, the only logical thing to do is call the police. You cannot get in trouble for this. It's literally not your fault. Worst case scenario, you get accused of some kind of assault or misconduct. But there are numerous witnesses that saw her leave the club with you and Carlton, and the bodyguard can vouch, for whatever intercourse happened, if there was any, if that it was consensual and this, that, and the third. Now, Carlton somehow convinces him not to call the police, and the reason, besides plot armor, I can think of is, Kid is scared of the negative press he will receive, which is beyond stupid, as we've seen media moves on, the media moves on quickly, and in this movie, he's a multi-millionaire, so he can afford to lay low for a month or 2. But I get this is a crazy situation which causes impulse decisions. But Besides that, the only explanation that Carlton gives not to call an ambulance is because
They call the ambulance. They'll call the fucking cops. They'll call the fucking cops.
they will call the cops. I mean, duh, like, that's kind of what you need right now, dude. Like, you need to let them investigate, prove your innocence. Like, after this scene, I said out loud to my girlfriend, how much you want to bet she's not dead? Hold on to that thought, because, speaking of death, this happens at the end of the episode. Again, I know this is a show, right? But that was a stupid impulse decision. But as you can see, this causes so much more trouble later. But let's stick to this moment right here. First off, you wanted the dude to go away. If you wanted the dude to go away, you would have just paid him and kicked him out or whatever. But also, this guy is a gangster mob boss, for all you know, and you resort to choking him to death. Now, besides the stupid decision there, nothing really to nitpick besides he's a mob boss and he should be relatively good at fighting. I mean, he caught him off guard, but never mind. Anyways, he has no idea if this dude really passed out or not. What I was about to say before I cut myself off is he could have faked it. Now, depending on how long this guy can hold his breath, he could have just passed out, he's probably not dead. He also could have faked it. And as far as I know, it takes a few minutes for you to die of strangulation. So unless they did a mini time skip, this guy, at least in theory, could get up at any second and start kicking ass. Anyways, I wanted to show y'all those scenes to give you context to me breaking down the last episode, because this is one of those wild Rick and Morty Fast and the Furious type of turns where you watch and you're like, where the hell did this come from? So, like I just said, I'm going to review the last episode, and in case you didn't catch it in the beginning, this is where, if you haven't already figured it out, this will contain spoilers to the whole thing. So, I'm going to run a quick ad, so hopefully you stick around after you press skip. So the first important part of the episode is Kid finds the Phantom Lady, the one who allegedly overdosed in the first episode. Kid is reasonably upset and approaches her to get the truth.
Answer my fucking question. Was it all his ideas?
It was Carlton's.
His brother set him up. So Kid, seeing red, after throwing a tantrum at his bodyguard later in the episode, he proceeds to take Franklin to a basketball game. I don't know why. He looks like Franklin to me. I'm going to call him Franklin for the rest of this. Now, this was odd to me for reasons we will explain later. Anyways, Kid asks his bodyguard to leave the room, and being nosy, the guard cracks the door. And after a domestic violence scene that made me extremely uncomfortable, we get to the rising action of the episode. Kid confronts his brother and cuts him off completely, which is extremely reasonable, but why do it at a basketball game? You could have easily texted him that or called him about it. And you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe he did it so Franklin wouldn't cause a scene, but then again, you have a bodyguard, so what's the point? Skipping to the climax of the episode, or even the season, which is way out of left field, they're leaving, and of course the Greek mafia shows up and starts popping off. These are the brothers of the guy that he murdered in the first episode. And here's what I don't get. First off, where's the stadium security? Every stadium has security and police stationed, even if it's a small unit. And if they are at this, right here, they're non-existent. Even at the entry point of the stadium, next to the paparazzi, which is where people would be sneaking in. Anyway, so continue on. Here's where it gets ridiculous. If you watch the show, you know this. But in case you don't, which I'm assuming some of y'all haven't seen the show, these Greek dudes are professional killers and whatnot. They murdered a guy earlier in the season, and when they discovered Ari's body, they said it was done by an amateur and kind of like was offended that their brother was murdered and hid in such a fashion. And they also murdered a chick in broad daylight. So these dudes are killers. So see this here, the bodyguard draws a gun on them, obviously, and before he can even train his sights, he gets struck. Now remember this, cause they hit a quick draw shot on the bodyguard, but missed relatively easy shots on Franklin and Kid. They even hit the ceiling with a bullet. But watch this.
You motherfuckers.
Pause. This is where I'm like, what the fuck? These dudes are professional murderers, and they missed a handful of shots in this episode, which is accurate because shooting a gun isn't easy at all. But Kid, a guy who can't even fight in this movie, the first time he touches a gun with zero preparation, nails back-to-back perfect center of the forehead headshots, back-to-back. That is absurd. That is absolutely immersion breaking, and that's just insane. That first off, why would they let, like, maybe because they appear to be unarmed, but I'm sure if they were able to hit a quick draw shot on a bodyguard and whatnot and just run through security, I'm pretty sure they would have saw him pull the gun out, and it would have took him a second to like line that up. Whatever. But don't worry, it gets worse.
Come on, man. See.
Kid shoots his brother for no reason, and while he does stage the scene very well visually, I'm no CIA agent, I'm not a forensic expert, but number one, unless they conveniently were using the same gun between the three of them and the same bullets, the coroner would be able to see that Franklin was struck by the same bullets that killed the Greek dudes, and a different bullet from the one that struck the bodyguard. Also, they would see his fingerprints on one, if not two of the weapons. But wait, it does not end there.
I heard what you and Carlton talked about at the game.
How? Tell me how the fuck he heard this conversation. Look at how big the suite is, and he's outside the suite, and Kid's practically whispering in this scene when he talked to Franklin. Add in the fact there's white noise from the crowd, the basketball game, referee whistles, and whoever else is in the hallway with the bodyguard. So unless the bodyguard has absolute deity level hearing, it is virtually impossible for him to hear this conversation. Even if he was able to hear it, it would be in bits and pieces. Now, he could be bluffing, which is possible, but once again, it would be absolutely absurd for him to even hear a little bit of it besides a little, I'm done with you, little murmurs, right? Nonetheless, how do I feel about the show? It's okay. If you need a quick watch or background noise, yeah, it's alright. I mean, I wouldn't recommend watching it as the story is rather bland. I mean, the entire season is Kid getting in extremely avoidable situations, then a random unfortunate event being stacked on top of that. Being peer pressured to drink, being peer pressured to flirt. Oh, your brother is trying to scam you on top of that. Getting talked out of calling the police. Impulse decision to murder the con artist. And it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs from there. I guess if the show is trying to teach you anything, it's don't fall victim to peer pressure, don't abuse pills, don't bottle up emotions, you know what I'm saying? And I'll add in one, never have sex with an intoxicated woman, even if she consents. But anyways, I don't know. How do y'all feel about it? I feel like the show was kind of it was easy to follow. Like, it was very easy to follow, but I don't think it was good. It's just kind of like, how was he letting this happen to him? Now, if this was like some kid's cartoon, I would understand, but this is like an adult show, and I don't understand how anyone but a kid actually like follows this and is like, this is cool. I don't know. How do y'all feel about it? If you've seen the show, let me know, because I just think it's bad. I'm not gonna lie to you. it doesn't add that I'm a little biased because I don't like live action shows, but hey, I mean, I'm watching Money Heist right now and that show is fucking phenomenal. But hey, that's gonna do it for this one. If you know, man, because we know we up next. Sponsored by Atari. And